Hey everybody, my name is Angie Murenga. You're watching Just Angie. It's the amazing Ustawi section, which I really love. It's all about leadership, justice, and purpose. And there's no better person for me that signifies leadership, justice, and purpose than the lovely Teresa. Teresa,
yes.
You have been here before. Karibu sana.
Thank
but
you.
Introduce yourself to my guests so that we can engage in a conversation.
Sure. And thank you so very much, Apostle Angie, for having me again. And I know I don't come here alone. I carry with me the amazing voices of the women and the community at Clean Start. To our viewers, my name is Teresa Njoroge. I'm the founder and the CEO of a social enterprise called Clean Start Solutions.
Yeah. And what a clean start. I don't want to get carried away, but you did this report. This is what I want us to focus on today.
Yes.
It's rethinking the bars, which is so amazing. Like, yay! I love the report, but one of the things I wanted to say to you even before you start, as I read this report, Teresa, I just thought, there are many opportunities to walk away. I just thought you could have gone to prison and just walked away from that experience. Draw the lessons that you want by yourself and move on. But the thing is, you've carried, I feel like all of us, I didn't go to prison, but I feel like you stepped out. And this was very emotional for me because now, instead of having emotion, we have a report. So I want you to tell us about this report, and I want you to say thank you. Thank you for doing something with your experience and carrying many people and being a voice to the voiceless with your experience. So tell us about Rethinking the Bars.
Thank you, Apostle Angie. And that has taken me aback because it's not just during that imprisonment and trying to reintegrate and rebuild my life situation or point in my life where I could have walked away, but even along the journey of the movement building, there's so many instances, situations that come and you feel like, I just want to walk away.
Yeah, like, why do I need to do this? Which is the leadership part.
It's so hard.
It's so hard.
Yeah, and
do I have to?
Do I have to? And maybe we could just start there and encourage anyone who's listening, who's at a point where they're feeling, why do I need to do the right thing again when there's just so much against me? Why do I need to keep going when it's so difficult and so tough? But I strongly believe where God has called you into leadership, into governance, and to offer justice, we need to press on by His grace. And by surrounding ourselves with the right voices that keep cheering us on. And Apostle Angie, you've been such an encouragement along our journey for our community to keep going.
Yeah.
And what a moment.
Look at this.
To launch Rethinking the Bars. And the reason why this is so special, it's because this is the first report. I mean, there have been so many other research reports that have been done in this country and across our continent and the globe. But this is the first report in Kenya that has been done by formerly imprisoned women. It's such a great moment for their voices to be heard. And so they're not just adding, bringing to the table their first-hand experiences of going through the criminal justice system, but they're bringing to the table evidence to support reforms within the criminal justice system of how we could access and administer justice, and in particular for women who commit petty offenses. And why petty offenses? Because, Pastor Angie, I want to clarify that we're not glamorizing crime.
Yes.
That's not what, we're not saying crime is okay. Crime is not good at all. But what we're saying is petty offenses are misdemeanors by law which have alternatives when it comes to sentencing. And that's where we want to really zoom in.
Yes.
And say, when a woman is loitering, because a petty offense is, for example, loitering.
I can't even understand what loitering is. Some of the things they brought here, I was like, how do you prove it? I had question marks. How do you prove that I'm loitering? How do you prove that I'm loitering with an intent for prostitution? How? Hawking, at least you can say I was hawking.
Yeah.
But some of these things just sound out of this world. They sound very far-fetched.
Completely.
And I don't even know. I have so much to say. But they sound so far-fetched. Yeah. But you were saying, so a person who is loitering, a woman who is loitering.
It's a misdemeanor, you know. This is not someone who is going to cause any damage or harm.
It's not a capital offense.
It's not a capital offense. And so this person, by law,
I read the law. I was like, wow, this is what's supposed to happen? This is not what's happening.
Is viable to get a non-custodial sentence.
Yes, an alternative sentence.
Exactly.
A sentence with probation.
Yes.
They don't have to be in custody.
Yeah.
It's actually really good because it helped me really understand a lot of the things that we have discussed with you, but now with the evidence of law. So it's not our emotions about it. This is what the law says.
Provides for.
And I saw that there were other studies in the UN and the Luanda Initiative and all these things, but I love that this is a Kenyan-based report, and it gives us data.
It gives us the matching
so that there's
data.
we're not just talking out of our heads what we say, this is what happened, but now we have data. We have a conclusive report with data about what is actually happening.
Exactly.
And the other thing that stood out for me in this report, so it's about women with petty offenses.
Yes.
First of all, I think those petty offenses need to be rethought.
Yes.
Because the same petty offenses are how women are making their daily living.
Yes. Precisely.
80% I saw is alcohol related. Yeah. So I thought that must be changa. That must be the local brew.
Yes.
But if that's all you know how to do, what else are you going to do?
Exactly.
And then I was actually surprised that I've got so many things happening in my head. Why is it only the women who are brewing the changa who are caught? Apparently not men. Men who are not caught brewing this changa. Yeah. It's always the women. They should carry everyone. Anyway, the whole idea is petty offenses. I think they also need to be rethought.
Yes.
Because I think they're very colonial.
Yes.
They are very archaic, very colonial, and we're not looking at, in an African context, this is how our women, like going to hawk, going to sell, they're looking for their daily bread.
Exactly.
And the other thing about alternative sentencing is that this woman is a sole breadwinner in her family. Yeah. So when we arrest her and put her into custody, we don't inform her children where she is. We don't, and that's it. And we don't care now what's going to happen to the children. There's no thought. Yeah. So you are destroying so many lives in that moment that we really have to rethink it.
We have to rethink it, Apostle Angie. 90% of the women in prisons are the sole breadwinners of their families. And according to this report, 69%, 3/4 of the women who are in prisons are below the age of 30. They're between 20 and 30.
Which is so
never had a first-time job. They've never been employed, have no decent means of livelihood. And that's why it's so clear. 74% of these women are in due to petty survival crimes. Yeah. So can you imagine, Apostle Angie, if we took the alternatives and the non-custodial sentences, 74% of the women who we have in prisons today
would not be in prison.
And
one of the ladies I liked at the launch, because you did a launch, one of the ladies made it very clear. I don't know what crime she had committed. We're not saying they haven't committed a crime, but everybody makes mistakes. And the other thing in this country is very unfair. If you have money, because these effects are more affecting on the people who are poor. Because you have no access to legal aid and you have no money. And then you don't know your rights. And then I saw even the education level. But what I loved about that woman is that she said she now has a skill. She's, I think, a carpenter.
She's now a carpenter.
And she has a certificate.
Yes.
I guess that was clean start.
Yes.
She has a certificate she was so proud when she said she has an alternative source of livelihood. So now she's living life right. And first of all, we all make mistakes. And then we're not punished in the same way for the mistakes that we make.
No.
I think it is wrong to come down on our women like this when they are looking for their daily bread, and we need to find a way to correct them. I love the way that when we coach others, you know, we're coaching, we're mentoring. I always remember one lady in charge of the prison, officer in charge of the prison, giving a testimony about, by the grace of God, one of the ladies that I have been coaching, who her life completely turned around. Her attitude, just by knowing somebody cares. Somebody is walking her through, how are you feeling? What are you doing? What do you need to do? How will you live your life differently? Even the one who went to collect, we never heard from her again, but I think we were there. We collected her, we shopped for her, we talked to her. And then now we're not expecting her to go back to that
Precisely, Apostle Angie. And that's all this research is coming to prove, that we cannot continue to deal with our social economic issues through a justice solution. You can't arrest, prosecute, convict those who are poor and whose social economic status is low, you know, and precisely why our prisons are full of the poor, the vulnerable, and the marginalized. And so our aim with this research now, adding on to our first-hand experiences, is to say, let's come to the table as criminal justice actors, those who have been impacted now bringing evidence, and come up with an evidence-based campaign for evidence-based reforms, and say to the police, to the magistrates, to the prosecutors, and the prison wardens, everyone who's involved within the criminal justice chain, and say, can we deal with petty offenses through an uncustodial and alternative sentencing? Because there's a reason as to why our criminal justice actors continue to give custodial sentencing to a woman who, you know, was arrested loitering. There's a system that's continuing to reward this magistrate by taking this woman to prison and leaving her children all by themselves. And I like what you say, that a lot of these laws need to be rethought.
They need to be rethought.
We inherited them from our colonialists, and all they wanted was to keep the populations controlled for the subduement that they wanted for the locals. But we can't continue in the same way years later, decades later, almost 6 decades later, post-gaining independence. I think it's a high time we rethought those laws. And now that we have done this research and have the evidence, one of the things we want to do is set up key stakeholder roundtables to disseminate the information that is in this research report. And I'm so glad that you are the first person who has called us to talk about this research, because we need to disseminate the information that we have gathered. What's the evidence that we have gathered? So through these key stakeholder roundtables, discuss the recommendations that we find in this report, and then push and move towards implementation.
Because it has to be implemented. Because people do reports and then they sit and they gather dust. So there has to be an implementation. And they're telling me we're out of time. So I want us to end this here. But when I come back, I want to talk about not only the implementation, but I saw that there are resources that we need to do, like our probation departments and all that. And also that there's excessive imprisonment? So it's not the same. We're not applying the same.
You know, there's excessive use of custodial sentencing, excessive use of force, and we're not resourcing non-custodial and alternative side of the system well enough compared to the side that favors the custodial sentences.
So we'll be back next week where we're going to discuss the actual alternative sentencing, the probations, the things that we can do, the measures that we can put in place to ensure that we're rethinking the bars. God bless you and see you next week.